Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea from the critic Fredric Jameson. He basically says that in a world that feels, well, stuck, science fiction isn't just escapism. No, it's actually one of the most important tools we have for imagining a totally different future. It's a pretty wild thought, so let's get into it.
So, our story really kicks off with this one phrase, a phrase that kind of defined a whole era. There is no alternative. You've probably heard it. It was famously used by Margaret Thatcher, and it just perfectly captured this feeling that was spreading everywhere. The idea that our current system, is the only way things can be. It wasn't even pitched as an opinion. It was presented as like a law of nature, an unchangeable fact. But this is where Fredric Jameson comes in and just does something brilliant. He takes that dead-end phrase and flips it on its head. He says there is no alternative to utopia. Now, he's not being some wide-eyed optimist here. This is a defiant move. He's essentially saying, okay, if you're going to tell me we're trapped, that we're cornered, then the only possible response, the only way out, is to imagine something completely and radically different.
And this, right here, this is the core of his whole argument. See, for Jameson, the real problem isn't just the system we're in. The real trap is our inability to imagine anything else. It's this widespread belief that no other way of organizing society is even possible. It's a crisis of imagination. We're so locked in, so deep in our own reality, that we've kind of lost the muscle for daydreaming about other ways to live. And that, he says, is the real prison we need to break out of.
All right, so let's talk about this word, utopia. When Jameson uses it, he is not talking about some perfect, sunny island where everyone is happy and there are no problems. That's the big misunderstanding, right? He wants us to throw that image out. For him, utopia isn't a blueprint for the future. It's more like a thought experiment, a powerful mental tool we can use right here, right now.
Okay, this definition looks a little academic, I know, but let's break it down. It's actually pretty cool. Radical difference just means something genuinely, fundamentally different. Not just a slightly better version of what we have, but something else. And the systemic nature of the social totality, that's just a fancy way of saying that everything in a society is connected. The economy, culture, politics, how families work, all of it. So a utopian thought for Jameson is about imagining a world where all those connections are completely rewired. You change one big thing, and then you see what that does to everything else.
So the whole point of this isn't to escape our world. It's actually the opposite. It's about getting a fresh pair of eyes. By seriously trying to imagine a totally different society, we can finally turn around and look back at our own world. And suddenly, it doesn't look so normal anymore. It starts to look a little weird, a little constructed. And once you see that it was built, you realize something crucial. It can be changed. It's all about making the familiar feel strange again.
Okay, so if utopia is the thought experiment, where exactly do we run these experiments? Well, for Jameson, the answer is super clear. We do it in the laboratory of science fiction.
He makes a really strong case that sci-fi, more than any other kind of story, is the one place we're forced to confront genuinely different social systems. Look, it's not just about cool spaceships and weird aliens, right? At its best, science fiction is about building entire worlds from scratch. And because of that, it just becomes the natural home for this utopian impulse. It's the genre where we can ask the biggest, wildest what-if questions and actually explore the answers.
And look, he's not just talking about some obscure little corner of the genre. He pulls from the absolute giants. We're talking Ursula K. Le Guin and her anarchist worlds, Philip K. Dick's mind-bending alternate realities, Kim Stanley Robinson's massive world-building projects. I mean, the list goes on. He sees the whole field of science fiction as this incredible, sprawling collection of social and political experiments just waiting to be analyzed.
This quote from Kim Stanley Robinson is a perfect example of what he means. Jameson's really into this idea of utopian enclaves, these little pockets within our world where a different way of life is already being tested out. So here, a science research station isn't just a lab, it's a tiny model of a society that's based on curiosity and meaningful work, not on making money. It's like a little spark of utopia, carved right out of the world we know.
So, how does this actually work? I mean, how do these sci-fi stories really manage to give us that critical distance on our own world? Let's get into a concrete example.
Okay, a classic example that Jameson uses all the time is Ursula K. Le Guin's masterpiece, The Dispossessed. The book is brilliant because it sets up a direct contrast between two worlds. You've got Eris, which is this lush, wealthy planet that looks a lot like our own capitalist world, full of stuff, consumption, and inequality. And then you have its moon, Anaris, which is this dry, harsh, anarchist society built on the idea of solidarity through shared poverty. And by making you jump back and forth between them, Le Guin does something amazing. She makes you feel the difference. Jameson points out that the book is literally designed to make the shiny wealth of Urus feel kind of gross, almost nauseating by comparison.
And here's the payoff. The main character, Shevik, who's from the poor anarchist moon, comes to the rich capitalist planet, and he doesn't see a paradise. He sees an empty, beautifully decorated box with something rotten inside. That, right there, that is the utopian function in action. It's seeing our own world through the eyes of a true outsider and suddenly realizing, whoa, this isn't normal. There's something deeply wrong here.
Now, what I think is so cool about Jameson's whole argument is that he says this isn't just for sci-fi writers or big-shot philosophers. Not at all. He thinks this utopian impulse is something we all have. It's a tool that's available to literally everyone.
You can actually break it down into 3 simple steps. Think of it as the utopian operation. First step, isolate a feature of our world you think is a problem. It could be anything systemic: money, prisons, maybe even the idea of a 9-to-5 job. Step 2, imagine a world where that thing is just gone. It doesn't exist. And then, step 3, just sit and think about the consequences. If you get rid of that one thing, what does the rest of the society, the whole new social system look like?
And I absolutely love this quote from him, because it makes this whole grand idea feel so down to earth. He calls it a hobby-like activity, something you can do in your spare time, in your garage or your workshop. It's like tinkering. You're not trying to lead a revolution tomorrow, you're just playing with ideas, building little models of different societies to see how they might work. It takes all the pressure off and makes it something fun, something anyone can do. It's a deeply democratic idea.
And that really is the main takeaway here. For Jameson, thinking about utopia, imagining these other worlds, it is not escapism. It's the opposite. It's a necessary first step. You can't build a different world if you can't even imagine one first. So this is all about exercising that imaginative muscle, keeping it strong and flexible, especially when the world around us is constantly telling us there's no point, that there's no alternative.
And so that's where we'll leave it. What's great about Jameson is that he doesn't hand us a map to some perfect future. He just gives us permission to start drawing our own maps. He leaves us with a challenge, really, a question. In a world that feels so stuck, so permanent, what's one radical difference that you can imagine? What piece of our world can you mentally erase, and what new world springs up in its place?